They know more guns, less crime. They know tyrannical systems want their guns. Now, they may pull out the stops. Obama has promised the Brady campaign, that got leaked last year, that he will get the guns by stealth. The NRA's gotten memos, and they're usually pretty mild and milquetoast. The Washington Times has reported that he does plan to ban semi-autos. I mean, ban them. I mean, turn them in his next administration. So we're in a lot of trouble. But at least we're in the game. You know, it's like being in a fight, and you know what? He's hitting you pretty hard, but you're hitting him. And you just need to stop worrying about who wins and start swinging. Because the person that pauses, you ever had somebody in a fight punch you and then they stop to see what it does? By the time they've done that, I've punched them 3 more times. And that's what we got to do here. We've got to understand in an info war, just start pounding the enemy and stop even worrying about the results. Open a can of butt kicking in the info war. Get aggressive. City council, county commissioners, state houses, phone calls, letters, street art in legal and lawful areas. Just get the buzz of liberty going where it can't be ignored. We're winning. All the globalist white papers say they're scared, and they want to go to pure authoritarianism because they know they can't control us through soft power anymore. All right, I've now digressed. When I come back, I wish that this French situation never happened. And I wish that if it now has happened, that it would be a real terrorist. Because then that is not as frightening as knowing that it's a staged event. I keep looking for the event that's not staged. It's got every stinking earmark across the board. Of course, he went to Afghanistan. Of course, he was in a prison. Of course, he broke out. That's how they always release him over there, to go do his job. We saw this with the al-Qaeda attacks in Spain. It even came out in the Spanish newsletter. The government staged it. They went to an apartment building, blew it up, and said the terrorist was in there. They can have special ops, shoot a few people, then they just go and blow up or burn down the apartment building or shoot some patsy, and then that's how they do it. The Russians have been caught doing it as well. This is how the globalists operate when they want to power grab. It's got all the earmarks. They were following him. They knew all about it. That's the handling of him. I've seen it over and over again, just like the underwear bomber. He could just be a mentally ill patsy they allowed to do it, or it could be a total cutout. He doesn't even exist. But right now, staged. A year ago, I began to do it. All right, here is what we know right now about the shootings in France. The suspect was tracked for years. The BBC is reporting French police are continuing to lay siege to an apartment in the southern city of Toulouse, where the man suspected of shooting dead 7 people is cornered. The man, 24-year-old Mohamed Mira, a Frenchman of Algerian origin. And, of course, they had the big rebellion there in Algeria, kicking the French colonialists out back in the, 60s, has been tracked by French intelligence for several years, according to Interior Minister. The brother of the suspect has been arrested in another part of Toulouse, with several other relatives also reported detained. And it goes through that. Now, buried in a London Telegraph report, we learned that, and I've also heard this morning on XM, BBC covering this and confirming it, that he was in a Afghan prison and escaped. Folks, they have escapes constantly where thousands of people get out. And these are basically events where they grab people, then find out who they can control, who they can set up as a patsy. It's admitted that they have a base within the base at Camp X-Ray in Cuba, the Marine Corps base there, / Army, and that there's a CIA facility that's the real facility where they do mind control experiments. And I had the information, of course, if you go back like 8 years ago, that they were engaged in mind control there from my sources before it was even on the news. So that's the type of issue that we need to discuss and be aware of. And then now you see all these top al-Qaeda fighters. 3 of the 5 or 6 main rebel leaders that have taken control of Libya were all al-Qaeda held for many years at the secret section of Camp X-Ray. I mean, it's in the LA Times. It's in the Associated Press. Oh, there's an al-Qaeda problem. Yeah, the rebels the West put in to overthrow Gaddafi, they happen to be al-Qaeda, most of them. And Saudi Arabia and Qatar and all these people are giving their special forces to the fight as well. And then they held up signs on the BBC months and months ago saying, Syria, you're next, here we come. And then, over the weekend, there are giant bombings killing scores of people, blowing up the police headquarters, the intelligence headquarters, and one of the main military headquarters. Giant car bombs go off, and al-Qaeda takes credit, and the West is calling them protesters. Oh my gosh, Assad is shooting people. And then they catch Danny the Syrian when he, I mean, I said this a month ago, that you'd see him on CNN going, yes, I am here in Syria. There are thousands of dead today around me, thousands of dead. And he's such a bad actor. I'd see him the next day on CNN with Anderson, admitted CIA Cooper. Do you know? Just look it up. He was admittedly CIA. And he would switch out because he's really from England. And he'd go, I'll tell you, Anderson, it's incredible what's happening here. I mean, excuse me, we are battling them right now. I mean, they don't even have good actors. We're looking for a good actor, Danny, to join Team America. Can you do it? So this is the type of garbage that they shovel at us, and it's designed for those that aren't paying attention. Then he gets caught in the CNN feed that probably the Ruskies grabbed because they got troops there. We told you that months ago. Now it's admitted. Of him going, all right, what you do is stage the gunfire over there as soon as I do it. And then you hear the director going, now say they're dragging bodies over. And there's no, as soon as the live feed cuts to, yes, CNN, boom, 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 there are bodies, oh, terrible. I mean, this is what they do. And you better believe that this Toulouse situation in France, potato, patata, it stinks royally to high heaven. I mean, he could have just been some Algerian mad at the French, and people do stuff like this. People do go crazy. They do go postal. Look at the guy now, they're saying is killed 19, they're now saying. First it was 16, then 18, now they're saying 19 people. Little kids, a U.S. Army soldier, didn't want to go back. Now evidence is emerging. They probably had him on psychotropics. They won't say, but he was under treatment. Oh, that's a good idea. Give somebody a hallucinogenic psychotropic that on the insert says can make you go psychotic and have a hallucination and kill people. Give it to a trained killer who's been going into his 5th term. That's really smart. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
We're on the march.
Monday through Friday, from 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern, we are here live. And then, of course, weeknights, 7 o'clock. We've been on a pit stop in the last week and a half, premiering the Dave Mustaine interview and some other special reports, and then some compilations of older reports while I gear up to launch to the next level of the InfoWar. We'll be back live with shows Monday evening. But Billy Corrigan, tomorrow night, hour-plus in-studio interview I did with him, last Thursday. Billy Corrigan, of course, of the Smashing Pumpkins, but also prolific songwriter, one of the most successful in the last 50 years. He's not really even known for that, but that's the facts. Amazing political mind. He was in studio with us. That's going to premiere tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, prisonplanet.tv. And it's great to have people like Dave Mustaine reach out and want to come to town and be interviewed. And when Billy Corrigan was in town, through Mancow, learned that he wanted to talk, then he was a listener, really flattered. He's been listening for 5-6 years, really intelligent fellow, kind of a whiz kid growing up and a Renaissance man throughout his life, and his great girlfriend who I had a chance to meet, who, of course, is one of the twin singers of the Veronicas, another big mega band in its own right, because it again, just lets you know how many people are awake if prominent people are coming out of the woodwork. And when I say out of the woodwork, people like Billy Corrigan and Dave Mustaine have the courage to come on this show. Some people I've talked to have courage, but they've already lost family members fighting tyranny. I'm not going to say any names, but some of the biggest names in Hollywood, the biggest names in music, the biggest names in the military, some of the biggest names in intelligence, some of the biggest names in journalism, Pulitzer Prize winners, contact me privately and say, you're dead on right. You know, I had dinner with the heirs to this fortune last week, and they admitted the whole world government plan and that you're absolutely right, and that the elite think they're about to become Prometheus with the fire of the gods and that they're going to live forever and they plan to exterminate everybody, and oh my gosh, the elite are all digging into bunkers. Well, why don't you come on air and tell folks about that? And they just say, no, Alex, we're just glad you're there. Thank you. And the way I've heard it described is that, you know, they know that people are going to come after them big time if well-known people start going public, because the system knows that a chain reaction will then happen, because the system has put so much energy and time into building up the cult of celebrity. And these artists are all amazing actors, amazing artists, musicians. There's a reason they're stars. But the system gets them into their stable and then uses them to project the message they want. And so no longer are our heroes scientists, trailblazers, inventors, explorers, people that stand up for what's right. Those are my heroes, renegades. And those have always really been the heroes in history and in any society that excels. The elite tries to get people into the love of science and literature and philosophy and creativity. That's what the Renaissance is all about. That's what our founding fathers were the greatest flower and expression of. They weren't perfect, but in history, heads above all others. And I was listening as I drove into work today, as I mentioned, BBC, and they were admitting, yeah, this guy was at a prison in Afghanistan, and this guy was tracked by the police for years, and they knew he had firearms. Oh, really? Where there's massive gun restrictions, and they know some guy that's training at Al-Qaeda bases has guns, and they let him do it. And he escapes from a supermax prison in Afghanistan, a dungeon. Does anyone believe this? It's always the same MO. That's their handling of them. Oh, he got released. He escaped. And I'm listening to that report, and I'm just like, it's Groundhog Day. At first, I'm like, oh, he's Algerian. I know that those folks have really been abused by some of the French colonialists. He might have just been somebody, who went postal, went crazy. Maybe he is a lone wolf actor who picked up on the Al-Qaeda narrative and did this. Please, please let it just be that. Please let there be real Al-Qaeda. Please don't let it be the government again. And then the earmarks, the signature, the wavelength, the MO. I mean, it's the same thing. And around the office, I'm like, if he ends up being followed by the police and going to Afghanistan or going to the Middle East or